All right. We give a few minutes for people to trickle in, or we just diving in?
I think let's give it a few minutes for people to trickle in.
I love
Let's
it.
give it a few minutes.
Love it. All
So
right.
how y'all doing today?
Doing well. It feels like a Wednesday, but it's only Tuesday, so I'm all thrown off. I don't know why. I know that's a
Yeah.
ridiculous way to start a conversation, but still. Meg, how are you?
I am doing well. I can't believe it's already Tuesday, actually. Time's just flying by. So
Pushing through. It's
I
pushing.
know.
Right. We are
Got that.
hitting a heat wave down here where I'm at. It's 90 something today, 90 Fahrenheit. It's like 33 Celsius
Nice.
for those in Canada.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're hitting one too. It's 11 degrees Celsius, so it's all of like 48, 50-degree Fahrenheit.
Ooh,
Gotta love it. Got
absolutely.
That's so
it.
funny. Down here in the South, we have a cold front randomly. So I think well, cold for us. I think it was down to 45, which down here is very cold, but
Mm.
Oh, okay. I think we have a few people trickling on in. We'll give it another minute or so. As we get this, I'm really excited about this. I feel like not enough people use Content Agent Studio. I know it sounds like I'm pandering, but really, I think that it's one of the coolest things.
It is. It's so easy to like, I use it all the time for LinkedIn posts and things like that. So there's
Yeah.
lots it can do.
I do too. Even for emails, if I need to generate just something recurring, it's really helpful. So easy to just quickly do. I enjoy playing
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
All right. What are we thinking, Chandra? How are you
Let's
feeling?
go ahead and dive
Do it?
in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Um, Welcome everybody who's here. First, a little bit of housekeeping. So we were talking about Fullcast Copy AI today, with specifically talking about Content Agent Studio, and we are going to walk through how we install CAS, Content Agent Studio. You'll hear that a lot. Loading examples, creating content, changing the settings, and then some advanced instructions that you can use to make the outputs really more refined to you and your brand. If you do have questions during this, please do not be shy. Just make sure that you ask it through the Q&A. I don't believe you'll be able to use the chat on this one, so the Q&A is where you can ask the questions, and we will make sure that we answer those. We will also have some open Q&A at the end, along with a poll for the most creative use of Content Agent Studio, which is great. And then we're going to go super meta, and at the very end, we'll show how we used Content Agent Studio to create the cascading content from this talk. But before any of that, as you can tell, I've had like 19 cups of coffee. I'm talking a mile a minute. So let's get to some introductions, and we'll start with Chandra. Tell us who you are and what brings you here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am a senior AI solution consultant here at Copy. And so Content Agent Studio is one of the things I like to make sure all of our customers are aware of, simply because it is so powerful and easy to set up and something that you can, without a lot of training, show other people how to use and get a lot of use cases tackled really quickly with it. So a little bit about me. I came from Copy from about a year ago. I've spent a few years in the tech space at a few different organizations in the RevOps space, so very familiar with Fullcast and all of the products. So um, that's a little bit about me, and I'll popcorn it back to Meg for her intro.
Perfect. Thanks, Chandra. Yeah, good to see everyone on today. I am Meg Turner, Senior Customer Success Manager. So I work very closely with Chandra's team. I help mainly on the strategy side, implementation, um, all things above the line. I go across the board with what I do and copy. So yeah, excited to be here today. I will be manning the Q&A as well. So if anyone has questions, I will be working on that to make sure we get you guys set up for success, hopefully building an agent by the end of this and yeah, sharing this with your team afterwards.
And Chandra and Meg are both copy experts. Could not be in better hands for today, and I'm excited just to learn even a bit more. So I am a senior AI solutions consultant coming in from the marketing team as a director of marketing, where we used workflows to rebuild a lot of the internal systems, but then we started using content agents as well for folks that didn't want to dive into workflows. And so before we even do the next slide, Chandra, I just want you to correct me if I'm wrong here. But I've always thought of copy AI as having like three parts framed as crawl, walk, run. You can crawl with the chat. You can go running with workflows, but if you are somewhere in between, because workflows can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, Content Agent Studio is the solution. Also for folks that maybe are on the team but aren't systems thinkers, they just know what good looks like and they need to make the same thing over and over. Is that correct in understanding?
100%. Yeah, that's right up Content Agent Studio's workflow. And if you also take a look, and we'll get to this later, you can integrate them with workflows. So you can do a little bit of both and start to get your feet wet with Content Agent Studio and then build further with some of the workflows.
Okay, we'll be talking about when to use CAS as well and when to use workflows. So there's some pretty clear-cut, I wouldn't say clear-cut rules, but kind of there's some use cases that make a lot more sense for Content Agent Studio than a workflow and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, should we dive in with the demo?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So our demo, we'll just kind of walk through a little bit of how you use it once it's all set up so you can kind of see the end result. And then we're going to come back around and show you how to build this. So this will be very hands-on. So if anybody wants to follow along, you'll get step by step and you can build this out yourself too. So I'm going to switch screens and come over here. I've got a little prompting example that I'm going to use for Content Agent Studio. Now this document you guys should all have. We can put it into the Q&A, I believe, and hopefully share that with everybody in the environment. But here's how Content Agent Studio looks like when it's set up with a couple of different content agents. And as Meg said, you can do emails, you can do other types of content that you generate frequently. I've got one that's set up and I've already run quite a few of them. So this is what it looks like when you're looking back. Like I've done a lot on, change management and thought leadership with AI consulting, maybe a bubble strategy, things like that. But when you've got your content agent already set up to create new content, all you do is just click the button, and that's what the prompt that I just copied was for. Now, I just want to talk for a second about the prompt because you certainly want to tell it what you want to talk about. That's the most important thing. So change management, and organizations to adopt AI and quantify ROI. Now, I also did a little bit of digging, right? Because if you just gave that subject to AI, it could certainly write something, but it'll be a little bit better if you give a little data to go on. And so I always try to find a couple of articles about it and just sort of scan them and go, okay, yeah, that looks like it's got some really good points. And so I would give it a few articles to take a look at too. And I might also just want to add a little note about cite your sources. And then we'll go ahead and save and generate. Now this takes a few minutes. So, while we're waiting for this to process, I'd love to hear some feedback on, people that have already used Content Agent Studio, how you've used it. I know we don't have the chat, but I don't know if people can come off mute or if they just have to put that right into the Q&A. But
And as folks are
Meg,
either working up the courage or putting the things in the Q&A, I did have a question for you, Chandra.
yeah.
I've worked with some customers who said that when they make it, they see the word brief. And for a lot of at least marketers, when we think of brief, we think of a very formal campaign brief or a structure, but it doesn't have to be like how you'd think of an SEO content brief or a webinar brief or a product launch brief. That word brief is a bit of a misnomer, right? It could just be notes, a transcript, basically anything that has enough context. Is that right?
Yeah, so the brief is really just an input in our world, right? So, if you think about handing off a project, whether it's something as simple as writing a LinkedIn post or writing some emails or doing some research, those sorts of things to a new intern, you want to give them a little context. So think of it as the input, which is the task, and then also think of it as like what you want to actually achieve and what your objectives are. In fact, that's a good segue into talking a little bit about our framework for how we prompt, and that's DT rows. So that stands for data and task, role, objective, structure, and examples. So what's beautiful about Content Agent Studio is it's already giving it the structure and the examples when you build it. And then once you've kind of shown it what good looks like, it's going to automatically go back and generate those. Now, uh, when we talk about the content brief and how that fits into the picture, it's the input, the very, very beginning, right? What are you giving it in terms of your task? But it sort of breaks down into thinking of all of those things together holistically. So perfect timing. here we are, and it is done. So to view the results, we can go ahead and edit with chat. And when I open that up, I get to see a number of posts. Now you'll notice there's 5 posts in here. Now that's because I've set mine up in an advanced settings to automatically generate 5 because I want to see a range. One of the things that often is overlooked with AI is that it's not algorithmic. You give it the same input, it's going to generate different output every single time. It's a bit more probabilistic. And so, if you are looking for, a range of different topics, and it also saves me from having to come back in, I can take this and copy a whole series and schedule them in LinkedIn right out of the gate. So it's also saving me a little bit more time by asking it to generate 5 at once. Now you'll notice there's no hashtags on this. So we also have this editing function over here on the right where I can just say add hashtags. And with that, it's going to go ahead and take a look at the posts that I've already put together and go ahead and add some hashtags to it. So you can do a little bit with the chat and prompting really quickly using that function as well. So you can see now if I scroll down, I've got hashtags for every single one of them, um, all there, right? Now, one quick thing, and I'll point this out again later, if I hit save, it's still only saving what's on the left. It won't save what's on the right. So if you want to keep this, you have to copy it and put it over here on the left. But I'm going to close out, and that's pretty much it for our demo. From there, you could copy those posts out, and you can then save them to go to LinkedIn or wherever you'd like to go. One quick, pro tip on this: when I do post them in LinkedIn, I come through and I can edit here, and I can put in the date that I posted it, which is, I posted on St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody! Today is the 17th, 2026. And then I can just save that and that'll be there forever. So I'll know that I've already posted that particular one and don't accidentally do it twice. All right. Any questions on that before we move on to our step-by-step?
Yeah, I was wondering earlier, we talked about when you would use this. Someone might see this as a one-off demo and be like, well, I could just do this with, Chat or Claude or something like that. Why would I use Content Agent Studio in this way? But there really is, once you have it set up, it's really good at giving you the consistent quality across,
Mhm.
rather than just kind of reinventing the wheel every time and making you reprompt and reprompt, I want this or this or this. So Chandra, when would you tell customers use Content Agent Studio instead of using the chat tool?
Oh, it depends on whether you're going to scale this and it's repetitive or whether it's a one-off. For one-off things, I would always use chat just because there's not much point in spending the time and digging up all those examples if you're just going to, do it once. No, I see Nadeem had a question here in the Q&A, so I'll just answer that live. But I see Meg's also typing, so you'll have that for your answer too. But we're going to walk through building that, so I'll show you where you can put those examples in. You can add more than 3 examples, so you can kind of give it a range of what you're looking for. But let's dive into that exactly. So I'm going to jump over here back to the deck and we'll show you kind of the step-by-step first, and then we're going to go through it live with you. So if you've got any questions as you go, just sort of let us know. Okay, so the very first thing when you're installing Content Agent Studio is you're going to go into Copy AI and log in. Okay, so pretty simple. Should redirect you to app.copy.ai. Once you're logged in, then you're going to want to make sure that you're putting it in the right place that you want it. Now, Content Agent Studio can be installed in any team space, but it's unique to the team space you install it in. So whichever team space, whether you're general or personal, or you want to create a special team space just for that, you can. But you're going to want to come over to this Content Agent Studio on the left and click on that. And then the very next thing is going to be to install Content Agent Studio. So really quickly, I'll walk through those steps with you. So I'm just going to create a brand new team space just to keep everything clean. And go ahead and create that. No, I've already got one that says demo 2. All right, so here I'm in this new workspace. Let me go back and refresh. And I'm in demo 2 and I'm coming to Content Agent Studio and I'm just going to click Content Agent Studio and voila, super simple, right? Okay, now that we've installed it, the next thing you're going to want to do is set it up and load it. So we're going to create a brand new agent, which is going to click that plus sign. We're going to give it a name for what you want to do. So the examples, and I don't know if everybody was able to access that doc because it was in the chat, which is only internal. So you know what we could do really quickly? Meg, if you don't mind, maybe we can put it in the Q&A instead, as I think everybody can see those questions. I hope. I hope everybody can see those questions. Let us know if we can in the questions. Okay, so the new agent, you're just going to click the plus sign. You're going to give it a name. And again, the stuff in the example is all about LinkedIn thought leadership. So that's you can name it whatever you want though. If you've got your own examples you want to do this with, like emails, you can totally do that. But once you've created the content agent, the next thing that we're going to do is it's going to ask you for these 3 examples. You have to have 3 at least, and you can add more if you want. And then once you've added those in, you can update the agent. And that's right down here at the very, very bottom. You'll see a button that looks like that. So I'll walk through this and we'll go ahead and create this together. So I'm going to say LinkedIn leadership, and I'm going to go ahead and create my content agent. Now, this is the doc that hopefully everybody's got access to, and I have some examples here in the first tab. So here is, yeah, it looks like you guys are able to see it good because I'm seeing some anonymous folks in there. But I'm just going to go ahead and copy that first example. Now, I pulled these off of LinkedIn. So think about it like this. You could also have this be like a ghostwriter. Like you could pull, if you've got somebody in your organization that's constantly posting, like somebody from the C-suite, you could grab theirs and make this agent sound like them. And so it's a great way to ghostwrite some stuff. But I'm just going to go ahead and copy that first one and paste that in here. And then I've got example 2. Copy that one. Paste that in here. So this might take you guys a little bit if you're doing one from scratch, just because you want to be able to find those examples for yourself as well. So copy and paste. So once you've got all 3 of those examples, it's going to take a second for it to process them. You can tell that they're brand new. They haven't been processed yet. And all you're going to do is hit update agent now. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and read those examples. It's going to kind of reverse engineer them and dissect them for like the tone of voice and the style, the length, all of that. And it will hang on to that for future reference. So it kind of, you're teaching it what you want. That's all you're really doing. So this might take a few seconds. So while that's going on, I'm going to go ahead and shift back and show you what the next steps are. And hopefully when we come back, we're good to go. All right. So once we've got this loaded, we're going to have a tab that's going to look like this, and it's going to be in draft mode. And then we're going to hit create new. Remember how I showed you in the demo. Once that is, once you click that button, it's going to open up a window, and this is where that content brief goes. This is what I had pasted in when we were doing the demo, just with a couple of articles and maybe cite your sources and some information on what your subject matter is. And then once you're done with that, we're going to hit save and generate. So it's actually pretty simple once you've got it set up to generate new content all the time. So let's come back. It's still working away.
I had a question, Chandra, or
Yeah.
question, and then more of a tip. It is so tempting, and I'm guilty of this, to try to shortcut the examples process and have AI generate your examples for you. Just reiterate the importance of having examples of what good really looks like and how it affects the output. I mean, we've talked about this in, garbage out, but I've heard so many people say, why does it sound like ChatGPT? And then you look at the examples of like, what did you use for this? And they're like, ChatGPT.
Yeah, well, exactly. And if you want it to keep sounding like that, you're just kind of, it's like an echo chamber, I guess is the best way to do it, to describe it, right? If you keep going down that, you kind of lose it. Another way to put it is it sort of smooths out the edges a little bit too much. and kind of makes it sound vanilla. Like if you're really a connoisseur of writing or visual, it's very easy in some cases to tell whether it's AI or not. So you kind of want those examples that have got a little edge to them that make them feel authentic, that that aren't too smoothed out, I suppose. All right, so our content agents is set up. So we can come back in here now. It should have landed right on this screen, which it did, but I wanted to back up to kind of follow along with our screen grabs in the deck. But your content agent is set up and there's nothing here because we haven't created any new yet. So this is what we're going to do is create new. I'm going to come back into the doc and I'm going to grab that prompt that we put together earlier when we were using it in the demo. And once again, paste, save and generate. And you'll notice that, this is only going to generate one because this is a brand new content agent and I didn't tell it I wanted 5. I just told it I wanted to create one. So we'll let that go ahead and generate. We're going to walk through the deck so you'll get a preview of what's next while it's generating. So once we've hit generate, then you're going to automatically get a window with the content in it. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to want to edit with chat because that opens up the window bigger. You can see all of the content, especially if you have to scroll down. It's better to be able to visualize it all. And then we've also got the chat window next to it. I used the hashtags example earlier. There's a couple of things that are really important edits that you make in here are one-off, meaning that if you're editing your content agent, it's not retraining it. So if you're constantly having to edit and say, I don't like this, M dash, go back to your original examples and make sure there's no M dash in those because you're not retraining it when you tell it to make edits like that. So edits are one-off. They won't retrain. If you need to retrain, you need to load new examples or edit the old ones and reprocess them. And then the other point is that when you see that split window between your content and the edit on the right, again, what's on the left is what saves, not what's on the right, not in the chat. So let's take a look. It's still generating though, so we're going to give it a second longer. But you've seen this window before in the other demo. Let's just throw it around. Like, what are the types of things that you might want to add on? Uh, Nathan, have you seen anything that, I always like to add hashtags. I always like to do a series of 5, but is there anything else that you like to add on that we should maybe
The
give it a
series is
try?
well, yeah, this the series of 5 is awesome. I think it's really good for marketers for A/B testing because then you can quickly say like, just change the subject line on this one and have it same copy but different subject lines going across.
hmm
So if you're
Especially if it's
isolating,
emails, right? Like, because
yeah,
you're really trying to grab them with that subject line. So that's a really good point. Okay, so we've got our content generated now, and we can edit with chat. And again, we can just go ahead and say add hashtags. We could, also ask it to add emojis,
yeah.
which is also kind of a fun one. I did have a customer once that wanted specific emojis and they were only allowed to use like 16 of them. And so that's something we'll get into in just a second with the advanced settings. Because if you're always having to add emojis or add hashtags, let's just fix that so that it always does it. And that's the next thing that we're going to talk about. And again, you can see it's beautiful. It's got all kinds of emojis in it, but if I hit save now, all of that's going to go away and it won't be in here. So you'll want to basically take this whole thing, copy it, and then paste it in here instead. So you see it on this side, and then when you hit save, now when you come back, you've got it. Just keep in mind that it did give me a header of here's your revision with the emojis. So don't put that into your LinkedIn post. And again, we can edit that and just take it out if we want to be really particular, which I kind of am. Okay, so there we go. We've done a little bit of editing and we've kind of taken a look at it. Now, if you want to come back up to the main view, you can always navigate here. So I'm going to come back up to, and now you can see you've got a list. So instead of it saying no content here, you're saying what you ran before. And when you create a new, it's going to have another line in here. So you can always go back to everything that you've built in the past and take a look at that. All right. So moving on. we've got a few advanced settings that we want to also be. So you can make some changes by clicking into the settings up here in the top right. You noticed earlier we're in draft mode, which only means you're the only person that can see it, and you can't connect it to other workflows either. So we also want to publish that, and that's the next step. And then you do have the opportunity to do some pre-processing. So you need to create a content brief or do some research or things like that. Beforehand, you can connect additional workflows. And the thing to keep in mind is the way that this sort of operates. It's triggered by the agent, but when you have a pre-processing, the agent first kicks off the pre-processing, then does the agent work, and then does the post-processing before it goes to publish. So I thought that was really cute with a little clover for today,
I was gonna
especially being
ask.
St. Patrick's.
I was gonna ask if that was on purpose.
It was, but it's also kind of how my brain thinks visually about how that operates. So, anyway, we'll take a quick peek at some of these settings just really briefly. So here we're on this main window again, content list settings. And this is where if you wanted to add or edit your examples, you could come in and change them. By the way, you can also attach files if you wanted to. This is where you can also connect these other workflows. If I wanted to do some advanced settings, I could say always add hashtags and emojis. I can spell today. um, always generate 5 posts. And you could get more specific and say, I don't want just 5 posts, I want a series of 5 posts, which then also means that you can kind of post them in line rather than just choosing from those 5. And once you've done that, then we can go ahead and update that agent. And then we can also publish it, which means that you can connect it to other workflows and other team members are now able to see it. So again, I'll just quickly update that agent to make sure that took effect. And we'll come back up here to Content Agent Studio and you see the draft is now gone. So that is how that works. So that's your quick and down and dirty Content Agent Studio demo and walkthrough. Now I know that we're getting really, really close on time, but I think do we have another 15 minutes? Is this booked for
I think we
an
have
hour?
another 30.
I think we might. Okay,
Yeah.
so good chance for Q&A, and good chance for a couple of things if Nathan's got some advanced settings that you guys would like to see. That's an option too. So I'll kind of pause there and see if anybody's got anything they like to chat through.
Anyone?
Yeah, it looks like Agnes had a question. So can you set in the advanced settings to use a list of product names? Depends on, yes. I mean, you could. You could have a list of product names that are in your advanced settings. And I guess the thing is that the best place for it, right? I guess it would be how many product names are you talking about? Like if it's just a handful, like 4 or 5, then probably. But where is the product name enough is another question, right? Like, so would it be better to give it also a link to that product? Um, And then in your content brief, you'd have to be cognizant of the fact that you want to call out the specific product name that you want to post about so that it doesn't post about all of them. So that's, or if you wanted it to randomly pick and do a series of different product names, you could do that. You want to be consistent in your naming convention. So if you call it product names in the advanced settings, you're going to want to make sure that you type it exactly the same way, maybe even put it in quotations or something in the content brief so it knows what it's referencing. So you wouldn't want to call it product list in one case and product names in the other. That has a potential for being confusing. But if you've got a longer list of products that you wanted to reference, then you might want to look at um, probably a table of some sort because I'm guessing there's a lot of information relevant to products. So, you could try a URL to each of those products then it would probably pick that up. If you want to be more specific about what types of things you want to talk about with regard to the products, you might want to think about a table and workflows to get a little bit more advanced with that. But hopefully that answers your question,
That leads
Agnes.
really
And then
well into the next question on whether or not I can get data from tables, or if you would need to use workflows only and then call the agent from the workflow.
yeah, yeah, and that's a really good point. You can tie agents into workflows, so they can call an agent in the middle of a workflow. So, which is a really great way to kind of architect the way that you think about things. You want to build based on things that can be repeatable and picked up and used again, so that you don't have to reinvent the whole wheel every single time. So whenever you can kind of chunk things down and reuse little parts, that makes it a lot more efficient. And then if you have to make a change, you're making it once instead of 500 times. Okay. Oh, okay, and I think we answered that one.
We do. I wonder, Chandra, if it's worth kind of reiterating, just because it was a great question asked by Nadeem earlier. He said, I've made an agent and there's room for example. Should I leave these blank if I have it in my prompt? Do they make it more skewed and restricted? What's the best practice here?
Yeah, so you absolutely cannot build an agent unless you have at least three examples. So you have to have a minimum of three. You can add more, and yes, that will skew things in a direction depending on what you load. Um, if you have one that's short and punchy and you have one that's a super long story, you're going to get a range immediately of the what's in between that. Um, if you have different styles, then you're definitely going to increase the range of what it might be looking for. Um, and you want to be cognizant of that because if you're trying to do something like ghostwriting for a CEO, you want to definitely only load stuff that sounds like that CEO. You don't want to go pulling in other stuff because it will skew that data way off course. So that's a really good point.
And then we
Let's
have
see.
one other question in the chat. Looks like also from Nadeem. He says, I think it was mentioned that documents can be uploaded. Do we put this in additional workflow section? And what document types are accepted?
I know that is a really, really great question. Let me just show you here in the settings. You see this little paper clip? You can go ahead and attach a file instead. Now, it will take, let me just think, it'll definitely take text files, rich text files, and it will take PDF. You have to be cautious though of having it accept a PDF because often PDFs have graphics embedded in them. And I'll give you an example. Like I had one customer who sent me a whole PDF of a big slide deck. And a lot of the text was embedded within images, so not accessible necessarily, not with a content agent and not, there are certain workflow steps that we can use to like scrape images, but it's hard to pull that out and dissect it through a PDF. The other thing too is, if you've got graphics like pie charts, it gets really hard to make sure those statistics are right. So it's almost better to pull that stuff out and leave it in a table. So, if you've got, just, text files, those are usually the easiest and the best to do for upload and attachment there. But that's anytime you see a paper clip in the interface, that's where you can attach a file instead of pasting it in.
And I know it accepts CSV files, but I've never tested adding a CSV file as the content brief or as the.
I do not believe that it will take a CSV file in here. Let me see if I've got one floating around somewhere on
I just
my
checked on mine. It would take
document.
it in the example, but I don't know if it would take it.
Oh, it will take an example then. Then it should work. Yeah, see, it's a C and a CSV. So that
That's
should
cool.
work just fine then. Yeah, I was thinking of the CSV import for tables and for workflows,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you're right, that'll work there too. So,
I wonder, I
okay.
know we had chatted about this internally, but is it worth chatting a little bit about the fact that you can grab URLs and paste those in as well to use as part of AI agent usage?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I had done in the agents. So if we go back to the prompt on this one, I think I can just open it up and edit the brief. Right, so there you go. It's an edit the brief, which is your input file. Yeah, these are just URLs right here for these articles. So it's actually going and reading those articles before it's building out. And the output, the content that it's generating is going to be based on information in those articles. So that definitely does work too. Let's see. I'm just checking the questions to see if we have any other.
I'm not seeing any new ones quite yet.
Prashant asks, can I get data from tables based on filters? Or will you have to use a workflow only and call the agent from the workflow? Yeah, you'd want to do that from the workflow because accessing tables is definitely something you'll want to do from a workflow itself because there's a couple of different settings on the way that you interact with tables, whether you're looking for just a row change or if you're looking for just a field update, those sorts of things. And whether you're trying to pull data out or update row information too. So those take a little bit more advanced. So you're going to want to do that in a workflow, but that workflow could pull that information and call the content agent to generate the output based on what you're feeding it. So it becomes sort of input that you're pushing to the agent. So hopefully that helps. And then I think we've got one more. It was mentioned that documents could be uploaded. Okay, I think we got that one. So I'm going to go ahead and say we answered that live. And that one. Okay.
I have a quick question. I know we chatted a little about this offline, but and this will be a bummer for some people, but also a relief for others. And I wanted to be clear, especially with the use of the names that we use with Content Agent Studio. These are
Mhm.
not agentic, meaning they're not making autonomous decisions in the background, right? Some people think that these agents are off just doing things randomly, but that's not really what it's not an agentic agent, right?
That's exactly correct. Yeah, you're right. Because that autonomous definition is really something to get clear on. You always want to double check that when you hear the agent thing, because this is not autonomously driving things. Certainly autonomously writing, but it's doing it based on the stuff that you've given it. So it's got a very narrow scope. And I wouldn't say it's making decisions because it's still up to you as a human to pick the post out of a series or out of the content you've generated to then go post it somewhere. So
You build an
absolutely.
agent for your CEO, it's not going to start posting on his LinkedIn or just
Yeah.
crazy on her, like on her social profiles.
Yeah. Looks like Nadine had another question about translation workflow. How can you use the content agent for this? You could use a content agent to maybe like redraft things if you wanted to. I'm not sure that it would make sense to though, and I'll tell you why. Um, Whenever you rewrite and rewrite and rewrite something, it tends to just get smoother and smoother and smoother. And I don't mean that in a good way. It kind of smooths out all the edges and the things that make it authentic and the things that make it human. And it becomes more and more AI-ified, I guess is a good way to put it. Not sure it would make sense to for translations. But if you do need to have it adhere to, a brand guideline, you could certainly do a pass like that, like check this content um, and make sure it adheres to this. And if it doesn't, then maybe rewrite it. So that's possible use case, but again, it goes to that smoothing out piece. Now, if you're using a translation workflow, there's a couple things I'll just throw out there that are kind of off the subject, but you want to make sure you're using the V2 because that one seems to do a much better job. There's two actions that are in there. And then if you do have the need to do a lot of like bulk translations, we do have a translation package that also helps with like rules that can be set so that certain phrases or words are translated a certain way, which comes up a lot when you're dealing with products and the way that you talk about your products in different markets and things like that. So, all right. Okay. So I think we've cleared out our Q&A, but feel free to keep adding if you've got any. I'm going to stop sharing. So I think Nathan had something, a little more advanced that he wanted to share about how we were going to process the transcript for this
Yeah, so
webinar. Do
you
I want
do
to put you on the
just
spot?
more advanced. No, I haven't read it. It's just the idea that it's more advanced than what you shared. That's really fun.
It is
All
stuff.
right,
Oh, really quickly, just in case anybody's got a drop, I do want to just point out that we've got some other upcoming office hours. This one's with Smart Planning. It's on the 25th. And then we are going to be doing another office hours on advanced use of tables. And we had a couple of questions in the chat about that. So keep an eye out for that. Those details will be coming soon. You should get an email from your CSM team, the team that makes working on, to just register for that if you'd like. But those office hours are coming soon. So I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Nathan to show us the advanced setup.
Yeah, well, what's been fun on the marketing side is a lot of times you'll have different people on different teams responsible for different text-based assets. And so you'll have someone ghostwriting for the CEO, like you said, Chandra, or you'll have someone working on the emails, or you'll have someone working on the social media. And each of them are experts in what they do. And I was explaining this to somebody recently where they said, can you build a sales outbound workflow? Can you, or an agent, or just something that gets us good sales outbound emails? And I said, I can do the plumbing. What I can't do is give you an example of what good looks like because I don't have real world experience with that. That would take a sales expert to look at the text and say, this is what makes a good outbound email. So a lot of times someone will write what they think is a good email, but they've never done it before. And a life cycle marketer will be like, that's really cute, but let's change this, this, and this. And so you really want the expert providing the examples of what's good. What's fun is you can have different people go into the Content Agent Studio and build these out. And then once they do, you can build a workflow that ties it all together. And so what we did here was created from the transcript. And I used a previous office hours transcript for this. So I jumped onto YouTube, scraped it with a copy AI workflow, grabbed the transcript, and then popped it here. And then all I was able to do is you can add this action right with Content Agent. And then you can choose from any of your published agents here, and then add the content brief. So with the hashtag, you put your input, and then it will be there. And so I ran this. I built a few. It took me all of, I want to say 15 minutes before to build three agents. And then I created a longer doc with this generate text. And I'm going to explain why I did that in just a moment. But with these agents, it was really easy. Then every time we have an office hours, we're going to put it on YouTube. So we're going to need a YouTube description. Every time we're going to follow up with a recap email for people who could attend and could not attend. And I could see a world where those are two separate agents, just with different instructions in the back. We're going to have a LinkedIn post to send people to that in case they missed it. And then we're going to have a support doc that lives on our support.fullcast.com. And now you can see I came in here and we have the YouTube description. It's a bit lengthy, but that's just because of the example that I gave it. So it was going to cover, I wanted what you're going to learn, meet the speakers, topics covered, and then a nice little call to action here with the link to support.fullcast.com. It will then write the after email with this, and I made sure it put in the first names because if we're going to put it into our ESP or our email service provider, we're going to use those variable tokens and personalize it for everybody. And it will go through there. And then whoever's the sender and then the recording link, we haven't published it yet, so I don't want it to hallucinate a link. So we make sure that we're putting there in brackets. Same thing with the LinkedIn posts. And again, I can go back at any point. I wanted to make something clear too, because I ran this as a test. And Chandra, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is what my instinct is. Whenever I'm first testing a content agent, I grab a piece of paper and I write down very specifically what I don't like about it. And I write down the examples that I don't like, and then I go back to the agent and I reframe it as the positive. So instead of saying, don't do X, Y, and Z, and Chandra, you told me this yesterday, reminded me, AI does not like instructions that start with don't or do not. So I'll write down everything I don't like about it. Yeah, please speak to that for a minute.
Oh yeah, don't it really doesn't like negative statements. In fact, if you're really trying for it not to do something, that's the worst thing you can do is tell it not to do something. It's like a 3-year-old with a cookie jar. It just goes right for it.
That's why I was just looking at my kids when you said it doesn't like to be told not to do it, and that will get it to do it. I was like, ah, my 7-year-old is
It's
like
like you
that.
planted a seed now and it's going after it. So you really do want to kind of guide it with a positive tone like that so that it knows a little bit more specifically what you're looking for rather than telling it not to do something.
Yeah, and I would.
And
Oh, please.
structure and examples. Exactly. You want to give it an example. That'll help.
And so I'll just make a list of what I don't like about it. And I expect it not to knock it, just like a new content writer or intern on the team. You wouldn't expect them to read something once and then get it perfect out of the gate. There'd be some give and take and back and forth. And then I'll go back to the agent and I'll fix that. And then I did generate for this longer piece here. I went ahead and used generate text. The reason that I did this, and this is one thing where if you are more familiar with workflows, I think it can be worth getting used to that run phase. Content Agent Studio is great. It can make long form content really well. I like this though because I can change the model along the way, which Content Agent Studio currently doesn't let me do. So for longer form text, I know I want a specific model, Claude 4.6 Opus, the latest and greatest from Claude. Um, and I like to get really picky with the longer form things. And so I try to choose the right thing for the right purpose. But for most of the text that's written that's not long form, agents do a really great job. And then you can tie them in. And now everybody gets exactly what they need from this one workflow. We have the YouTube description, post office hours email, the post office LinkedIn post, a support doc. We could then create a suite of agents for our C-suite team and have 8 different LinkedIn posts from agents that the CEO and the CMO and the CRO, they all built themselves because you don't need to be technical to make them. So I can have their examples loaded in. I can now have agents write way more text-based material on brand or in the voice of whoever they're writing for, and then have it all come from the same transcript rather than try to round up everyone to do it for them. So I think Content Agent Studio is really great within workflows to chain multiple outputs to one single input. So we have one campaign brief, one transcript, one something or other, and then we can get all of this cascading content without anybody having to be an expert marketing ops or coder or an engineer to really deliver. So that's my soapbox and my spiel on this thing.
Love it. Like you're an advanced user, Nathan. You give yourself a way too little credit for everything that you build over here at Fullcast. So
Oh, it's been 3 years here, and I just tell people I'm just the lucky kid locked inside the right candy store. That's just been fun to build. So,
I know that's exactly how I feel. It's a lot of fun to build. It's like
yeah,
getting to play with toys and puzzles all day long. So
yeah.
it's a blast. All right. Well, that is what we've got. Any other questions that you guys would like to have answered? You got us while we're here. Otherwise, we'll give you a few minutes back.
I think I want to know who made the best agent, if
Oh,
anybody.
that's right. We were going to circle up on that, because we joked around when we were putting this together that we were going to have you guys generate limericks, but we thought maybe not. Um, so I am kind of curious to see if anybody has a really creative use that they want to share. All right. Oh, all right.
We should
All
offer
right, guys.
a card. Dang it. We should
We
offer.
should have offered the gift card. I know, right?
Awesome.
Made it the competition. Next time we will. The most creative use of tables. So buckle up, guys. When we get to do this the next time around, we'll have a little challenge built into it for you. All right. I think we can call it then. And as always, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Most of you have either a solutions consultant like myself or somebody like Meg's team, the CSM team that you can reach out to. So don't be shy. We're always happy to help. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.